Sure, yeah. Thanks for everybody for coming out. Great first day. We're with the guys so much now. It doesn't have the, it's kind of anticlimactic in some ways because we're around them. I told them before that, practice started October 15th when I first started coaching, and I played, and one of the guys on my staff is so young, he was like, really? So it was, but it's great to be in here with the full group, and what it really is a benchmark for, hey, here's where we are after the preseason, off-season, what have you, and now we're leading up to 6 weeks before our first game, and it feels like fall outside too, so it kind of sends a message.
Heard you talk about practices and habits on the floor. First week, what sort of practices, habits are really important to...
Yeah, I mean, I think, we've spent some time sort of defining those things, and then, being able to convert them from, like, drill work to playing, and then from playing over a long period of time, hoping to get to the point where you could play 40 minutes at a high standard. But in the summer, a lot of it is, yeah, you're playing some, but you're also drilling it to try to, teach and build. And now we got to be able to go, hey, we might have to play 70 possessions this way at a high level. So that's the beginning of that.
Who's your, Darren's the honest leader.
Yeah.
Seeing Gerald adapt well, Boyd, who's going to be your leader?
Yeah, it's a good question, Byron. Our sophomores are very experienced. Obviously, Garrett not being here, he would be another really all-conference level player who got a tremendous amount of experience last year. And yet, I didn't think that we should have just all sophomores. So our transfers are all older, which we wanted to get older. And those guys, I think blending those experiences that they've had at other places with the experiences our sophomores got last year, and trying to build out a group that is a little bit more seasoned than last year's group was the goal, and I think we're there.
And just adding on, talking about transfers, can you just talk a little bit about what they kind of add on the court to this team, what new dimensions they bring?
Yeah, well, I think, Sean and Rafael Castro are both centers. I think you can play them together some, but both give you really good things at that position. Rafael's a real roll and rebound guy, a big lob threat, just a great athlete. And then Sean is very typical of, a skillful five-man that can make a three and is a great passer. He played at Cornell in the Princeton offense, so, very much a playmaker from that position. So the combination of those two guys. And then I think, in Gerald's case, he's a big guard that can play a number of different positions in the backcourt. Made 37 or 38% from three on 200 attempts, but can also play make. And Trey Moss has been a great surprise in terms of his effort, his athleticism, his energy. He's all over the glass for a guard, which I think is a great thing. He shot the ball at a very, very high level this summer. He's really worked at it, and I think if that shows up, then we've got a guy who again, has got a lot of great experience and a lot of tools in the toolbox offensively and defensively.
They're learning on the floor, but you're learning as well as
Sure.
a coach. Your lessons that you learned last winter, where there were plenty of highs, plenty of lows as well. How have you responded?
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing that probably was different is I felt like in the old days when you had guys for 3 and 4 years that you didn't want to make the summer feel like practice because it would make for a very long year and then for many long years because those guys are together so long. I think now when you look at, hey, we have, the 4 transfers, Christian Jones come off the bench. We have 2 true freshmen, both of whom I think have an opportunity to help us. You'll have a whole new team. Garrett goes out, now you're taking away somebody who probably is going to play 30 minutes. So I think we needed to get to the point where we were practicing. And when I say practicing, hey, it's an hour, and it's not like every day and everything like that. We're staying within the rules, but we're doing more 5-on-5 team stuff to try to build that chemistry that maybe we had done in the past, where you might have had a group together for years, and there was already some chemistry.
Okay, so to follow up on that, you talked about Garrett. How do you expect to fill out these, like you said, these 30 minutes of the 3 and the 4 absence?
Well, I think the first thing is you can't replace them. In our league, there's not many guys in our league that are 6, 7, or 8 that average 14 points, 6 rebounds, 42% from 3, tons of rim attempts, gets fouled, shoots great free throws. It's not like you say, "Oh, it's the next guy." No, he's hard to replace. So we have to understand that. But that was one of the reasons why we wound up bringing Diane in June. We got very lucky to get a really talented young player, and can he be that replacement? Well, it's hard to say, but you give yourself another chance to have a guy in that size category that can do some things. And we got a lot of work to do to get to that point. But certainly, it's going to be by committee.
So you're expecting Diamond to play right away?
Again, he's only been here since he wasn't here in the summer because he played with the Swiss team. But you guys are here today. I mean, you could tell me what you thought, right? So he plays really, really hard. He's got a big motor. He's really coachable. He's physically strong and athletic, even for an 18-year-old guy. I mean, him and Ty Bevins, I think, are both really good players. They got great size for their position, and they're 18 years old, which is exciting.
Expanding on the newcomers, what are your impressions? Not just the new kids, but the transfers as well. All the guys who are new to the program. What are your impressions? And what do you expect?
I think they fit in really well at UW. When you think about a guy like Sean coming from Cornell, an Ivy League guy, I think their personalities, their effort level. I think the ability to push the younger guys. Part of it for me was, the sophomores got a lot of experience, and I didn't want them to think like, oh, okay, this is what it's going to be like. I just get to play. It's like, oh, hey, there's going to be more competition. That's happening, and that was conversations that I had with those guys, in the spring. Like, hey, this is not just always going to be a clear path. There's going to be new guys, and iron's going to sharpen iron, and we're going to get better because of it. And I think they've done all that while also fitting in seamlessly in terms of their personalities and their work ethic and the type of people they are.
And I know scheduling has been a big topic of conversation, at least among fans.
Yeah, sure.
Could you just talk about your scheduling philosophy for this year in terms of conference and what you're looking for?
Yeah, I appreciate you asking me. I read an article. No one ever called me and asked me any questions about it. But no, I think first of all that if I would go back and say the metrics tell us how to schedule, right? And you look at schedules across the country, right? You're going to play a certain amount of home games that you hope that you can play well for the net. You're going to play a certain amount of neutral site games. This year we got Kansas State on a neutral site, right? And then you're going to try to find some home and homes that make sense. Like last year for us, that game was Hofstra, a team that's won 20 games for the last 6 years, right? I did that with 9 newcomers, including 6 freshmen, right? When you look at our exempt event this year, Kansas State in the first game, and then a rack of really, really good upper and mid-major, whatever you want to call them, teams. Who will come here? You try to ask some people, hey, will we start that series? The answer is no, right? And so what we have to do is now go on the road to American and Old Dominion. Old Dominion's been a program that's been good in basketball for 50 years, right? Now get that game returned, right? And so now hopefully the next year, you give yourself some flexibility with those return home games to potentially go challenge yourself on the road, knowing you might not get that game returned. But I think if you look at the teams in our league, no teams in our league, very few played more than 2 road games. The exempt events are trying to keep out the teams from the Atlantic 10. They're going from 8 to 4. It's becoming much more difficult. The fact that we're able to get Kansas State on a neutral site in the Virgin Islands, I think, is a huge win for our program. And then again, for the net, we're going to go try and play home games that we feel like, hey, we should be able to play well and maybe position ourselves with the metrics to do well. If that makes sense.
Yeah, so is that sort of the instruction of the league that sort of provides?
Well, the league's going to say, it's funny, when I'm going to be respectful of the league here, but when I got the job in April of 22, I got a piece of paper that said, this is the league's rules about the net. By the time I got to the league meeting, and I didn't agree with it, what I read, I said, I disagree. And I came from a place where I got 2 at-large bids at George Mason. When we got to league meetings, the commissioner said, hey, listen, we're scrapping that. She realized there's a new way of looking at this. Our league's got to win 80% of the non-conference. However you get them. You got to win 80% of the non-conference games. Right? And for teams like, in my case last year, where I got 9 newcomers and 6 freshmen, how can I get to 80%? We actually took care of business in the non-conference, And before our injuries, we were going to get ready to take care of business for the league in league play. That's going to be our goal every year. As we get better and better, then you start to think about, okay, maybe Dayton last year, they're thinking about seeding if they're healthy, okay? The other thing I would say about our league is I sat at the league media day, and they asked me about what I thought about the league coming off a year where we got one bid, and people were not high on us. And I said, oh, well, I've been in a mid-major, multi-bid league many years. I know what that looks like. This league looks like it. And then we have two teams make the tournament, both win a game. Neither of those teams win our regular season. Our league is terrific. I mean, whatever the net says, I can tell you, you're getting a lot in our league. You're getting a lot of bump in our league, right? And so, I think that's just a narrative that needs to change. But if our performance doesn't show that in March, and I don't know what to tell you, because I think we also had, a team in the Final Four of the NIT that didn't win our league. So we're in a heck of a league, and we're going to schedule like teams that are in multi-bid leagues.
About the A10 conference tournament coming to DC next March, how cool is that?
Yeah, I love New York. Obviously, I'm from New York, but I think for us to have this here in DC, I think we can create a great environment for our players and our university in the Capital One Arena. And I know our leadership, our president, our board, our new athletic director, I think they're going to make a big push to get a lot of people over there for our games there.
One more? Yeah, one more for me. I know a lot of people are excited about Adrian Wojnarowski joining the league with St. Bonaventure. I know you guys have a close relationship. I was wondering if you have any comment about that. Excited about the St. Bonaventure matchup this year?
Yeah, I mean, for me, my college coach played. He was a manager at St. Bonaventure, so he was there when we beat them there 2 years ago, which was a cool moment for me. And now having Woj there, unfortunately, Woj usually tries to make one of our games as a GW fan. He did that 2 years ago, but I don't think that's going to happen any further. And if he's happy, I'm happy. So I know him and his wife Amy are there's nobody that loves St. Bonaventure more than they do. Just like there's people who love GW at a high level, and so for them to be up in Olean a couple more times a year